Back. Let me get to the Lieutenant Governor in the House. It is the one and only Delbert Hosemann. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. Man, are you tired yet?
No, this is kind of, I've been at it a little while, Paul. It's kind of hitting your stride. We're about the 20-mile marker in the marathon, so we're closing on the end.
There's a little rumor we got yesterday that there may be a way to get out a little bit early. You think a week or two, or what's your feel of this?
Well, I would like to do that, actually. We're down to the appropriations part, which you know is at the end, and some conferee bills, and you're just moving right along. I'm real hopeful that we would, in fact, get out early.
What is the actual signing day?
I think it's May, end of April, 1st of May.
May, first 3 or 4. I thought it was May 4th or something.
I think it is May the 4th, but we hope to be going long before that.
And this is already the 16th, so you're feeling like if we could take care of these maybe next Friday, a possibility?
Oh, it'd be great if we could finish this week or early next week, and we'd be out a week or two early.
What's the strategy of this politically, though, if you guys can't come to terms on some of the major issues that are there, to just cut bait and count your losses and come back next year? Well,
some of those you can do. Appropriations you can't. Funding education you can't. I mean, there's several things that have to be done, that have to be done. If we didn't reach an agreement on X or Y, we can always come back next year. And, of course, as you know, the governor called a special session in the special session this year, so he can always call us back if he thinks it's important enough, or if he's got a big economic deal or something like that. So we can always come back before next year, but hopefully we'll finish our business and do our appropriations and whatever bills we're going to finish up, and then go. It's only 9 months, Paul. We'll be back right here, and
you'll finish those this week as far as appropriations?
Well, we're a long ways towards that. We had our meetings. The House had their meetings in the last week or so, and now they're meeting together. So our appropriations chair, our finance chair, will be meeting now with their appropriations chair and finance chair.
Any problems with that? Looking at the revenue with the March numbers and everything else, look pretty good. So no major diversions from what you guys earlier set forth as far as appropriation.
I think that we're approximately $1 million off in a $7 billion amount. So we're very, very close on our numbers, and that's good because, as you know, we have a significant PERS issue.
I do, we talk about PERS, and I want to get to that and some of the major issues that we've been talking about. We've got time on the other side. Let me first of all take care. Yesterday we had Willie Simmons on. And as a former member of the state legislature, he knows how things go, and constantly mentioning a source of recurring revenue so that they can plan something a little bit better. It almost seems that MDOT or road construction is taking a backseat to PERS and Medicaid expansion and everything else. And I'm hoping that's not true, but to a lot of the people out there, it seems that that's the case.
Well, it's a factor of money. How much you put in PERS and how much you put in education cuts into how much money you got left for roads and bridges. I mean, it's just the pie is only so big, Paul. But we have been super supportive of the transportation in Mississippi. Last year, it was over $600 million. And there is a dedicated $80 million that comes out of the lottery. The lottery's doing very well. It goes to maintenance in Mississippi, so there are some dedicated ones. I've never met a highway commissioner that didn't say they needed more money. I've yet to meet one. I guess maybe I will during my lifetime, possibly, but no, I never have. New, old, starting up, or whatever. They always need more money, and there are a lot of issues. We've been funding the emergency road and bridge, which helps our counties out a lot. We've been funding that a little bit every year, and then we've been giving them capacity projects, which are one at I-55 North, one at Highway 7 in Oxford, one in 15 in Tippah County, one over in Vicksburg at Flowers, one coming from the coast up from the Gaucher area. So we're doing capacity projects in addition to maintenance. Maintenance is insatiable, Paul. and they're in the amount of money, and they do a good job. Our contractors do a good job. We're going to have to continue to do maintenance work.
If you ask anybody about some of the things on the roads, as far as roads and bridges, I think the squatted vehicle probably would be the thing that most people heard about.
Well, we passed a bill on that. We passed a bill on that too. We'd like for you to see where you're going, if that'd probably be helpful.
That's just absolutely crazy.
Whatever.
How that worked out. Let's take Medicaid. Where are we, and what's your thoughts on this one? Where it's what's going to happen with that?
Well, there are two sides, as you know. The House basically passed Medicaid expansion, full Medicaid expansion. They had a work requirement in there, Paul, but it expired in September. So basically, I don't know the application even for a waiver. All of these require us to get a waiver from the federal government. So I don't know that was really a work requirement. It's just Medicaid expansion. On our side, our senators were very direct about how they wanted to do this. We believe, and I do as well, that we should be helping working people. And I think that was the governor's position at one time, actually. I think he said, we need to give a hand up, not a hand out. And we have people that are working between $17,000 and $30,000. Maybe a single mom with two children, a single dad with two children, making $25,000, $27,000, $28,000 a year gross, and they don't have any health insurance. And we want to keep them working. We have 53.9, I think, % labor participation rate. That's horrific. It's the worst in the country. We have an unemployment rate of 3.1%. So if you want a job in Mississippi, you can get one. And so we thought it was very important to have people who are working have the opportunity to have health care. And that's why we passed what we did, which was an insurance Medicaid for working people. We didn't take the extra money from the federal government. We're paying our own way on that. We taxed HMOs and managed care organizations 3%. That'll produce about $140 million. We're hoping we'd get 80,000 people that are working that don't have insurance on there. We probably won't hit that number. Georgia hadn't hit it yet, and so we think there'll be some excess money in there to beef up our hospitals and also reimburse our rural physicians. So we should have some additional funds. And somebody asked me the other day, why are you taxing 3% on managed care organizations, and why are they accepting that? Well, because their number of sales go up. It's just like when I was in Costco last night. We got a TV. They had one for $119. It was on sale from $140. So these organizations, by managing more people and having more people in there, they make more money, and they're passing it on to us, or we're getting some of our money back anyway.
I've never understood.
So I do want to make a point, Paul. This is not costing us anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're fixing to. That's a Warren County term. We're fixing to have health care for working moms with two kids that are making $25,000 a year out here working at $17 an hour. We're fixing to have them have health care so they can stay working and take care of their kids. I thought that
Can you explain to me why people would be against putting a work requirement in there? And we're basically, and you just had the numbers a few seconds ago, out of every 100 Mississippians who is able-bodied and able to work, I'm not talking about all of the other disclaimers out there.
That's right.
Out of 100 people you gather in a crowd there, 53% of them have a job and are paying taxes. 47 of them have decided to sit on the sidelines and not look for a job.
That's right.
And can get one.
That's correct. And
why would anybody want to pay for their insurance?
Well, the Senate doesn't. I just tell you.
Well, I mean, I think you found favor with the rest of the people, a majority of the people in the state. It's hard to understand that.
Yeah, I think we ought to have working people have access, like we talked about. And if you're not working, then you need to go get a job. Paul, your point is so well taken, because we're at 53%. You can add, if it goes down 4%, we've got more people on the dole than working. That doesn't work in any society, including our own. So we want to encourage people to stay healthy. We have an unhealthy state. We have weight issues and all this other kind of stuff, diabetes. So I'm hopeful that this will give us a chance to keep people healthy and working.
The dashboard of, and I'm just reading this now, the dashboard of the Mississippi Employment Security Commission as of 5 seconds ago. Jobs opening and need to be filled. Please come get one. Everything from scientists to people hold a road sign. Everything in between. 39,269. 39,269 in the state of Mississippi.
That's 4% of our population. If you've got filled all those jobs by people who aren't working, we go to 57% labor force.
And from what I've learned over the years, Governor, that is basically about half of
what's
what is
really
normal.
out there. Yeah, that's right.
That's really out there. I want to ask you about Inspire versus MAEP when we come back with the Lieutenant Governor right after this. If I said you had a beautiful body, would you hold it against me? How could you not write a song like that?
No, they got rich off of it. Somebody did good.
Playing at a small casino near you, it really doesn't matter. We were. Okay, let me double back real quick and just put a ribbon on this Medicaid.
Okay.
Unless there is a work requirement, it's a no from the Senate.
That's correct.
And that's the final word on that.
When the legislature's in session, there is no dead. The only time that occurs is when everybody goes home. But no, I think the Senate's position is very strong that we want people working, and we need more working people in Mississippi, and we want to help those that are working, and the ones that aren't working, they're going to continue to go to the emergency rooms and cost us a lot of money.
Is there anything that you've seen in the last little while that makes you believe that CMS would be applicable to that?
Yes, I heard on the way in today that President Trump is ahead in the polls. So
if he's not, something's wrong.
Yeah, well, so. I know. And when he gets in, we're going to be like Georgia. We'll get ours approved. And we have some work to do. Georgia's was not publicized well, I didn't think. And Brian Kemp and I go way back to our Secretary of State days. But I think we can do much better through our state exchange and doing, which we had hearings on yesterday. I think we can do much better in making sure people are aware of this. We've been doing really well, Paul, on the 100 to 138 or larger. The exchange has been going. It's now up to like 140,000 people and grown from like 60. So we're real hopeful that people are using that, which pays more money, and that's one of the reasons the Senate doesn't want to get in over 100%. It basically is covered by the government at least the next few years.
I haven't seen this. I know I got a couple of emails on this thing as far as Arkansas and using that as a template. And your thoughts on that?
Well, we looked at it, and when we did the calculations, Paul, it was much more expensive. They basically added a layer where they buy health insurance, and then, of course, they had to have a health insurance company to run it. So they buy health insurance for those people, and it was almost double what we just going straight with covering the Medicaid. It was cheaper for us to do that. It's less expensive.
Yeah,
I mean, that was more political. It was a political way to say, well, we really didn't expand it over here. What we really did was buy health insurance and expand it kind of in the dark.
I wanted to get into the health exchange too, but I don't know if we got time for all that. But any further thoughts on that?
No, we have a history of being unhealthy here, and people need to get out and walk around the block and see their neighbor, and they need to take care of themselves, and they need a regular medical home. Now, we've been at this since Dr. Shirley and others back in the 90s started this. People need to have a regular place that they go for their annual checkup. We get these horrible stories about a lady working at the Dollar General. Her husband was a mechanic, and she put off having breast exams. And by the time she got to the doctor in Greenwood, it was too late, and she died. And so we just need some regular care, and that Medicaid is not what you may provide in a state plan, but it's a lot better than not having any.
We broached this question a couple of times with Dr. Edney was on as far as the health centers across our rural areas. Did this legislature allocate any more money, or are they going to do that?
Yeah, we are, and Dr. Edney's been really a bright light over there. We started, I think, 2 years ago by trying to fix up our health departments. Our county health departments had been ignored, just like our state parks had, Paul. You're probably familiar with those. So we started rebuilding them, getting them in better shape. He's done a real good job with that, and now we're populating them and looking forward to having that be a center for people to come for public health.
All right, let's go to Inspire and MAEP before we're out of time here. And what's the latest from the Senate?
Well, we had on our side, first of all, from both sides, they're sick of MAEP, the logo. because no matter how much money you put in there, the press is always, oh, you didn't fund the MAEP, and it would be nice to have funded it more than
Somebody
twice.
tell your chairman that?
Well, we all have had the word of MAP more than we want to hear, and so, but the theory behind it is that we fully fund education, particularly in poor districts that don't have the economic say of a Madison or a Rankin or DeSoto, Harrison, some of these other counties that are really doing well, Lamar and others. So the story was to go back and give more money to lower performers so that each child had an equal opportunity to learn, Paul, and that's a good concept. Now, what we call it may be something else. One of these names, two names, or one, we can call it Paul Gallo program. I don't really care much, but I do care about how much money we spend and how it's allocated.
But the Inspire bill written in the House does that.
No. And what I want to tell you...
You're saying it does not do that?
I am. And the first allocation that I got was from the Parents Campaign. Of course, they're very active in here, and they say in theirs, and I'll just read it to you, the current MAEP formula provides funding for 96 school districts, of which 43 are highly compensated. Under the Senate plan provides more funding than the House plan to 75 school districts, 34 of which are 95% poverty rate. So the more high poverty rate, we provide more under the Senate plan, under our calculations.
I cannot believe that you're actually reading that from a source that I think this audience would probably have more trust in the View.
I know, because when I started running them, I got two or three others, and none of them are the same. And the reason is, that's one, you're right, that there's questionable. But in any event, I got different ones all over. I've got them all different ones. But most of them say that the Senate plan provides more for poverty school districts. And what's going on here is the base student, what is the base student amount? And the House plan is about $6,600. I think ours is a little bit higher. But they go along and they allocate out to different people, Paul. And low-income people get a weight of 30%. English learning, people that we've got a lot more than we used to have, 20% weight for that. If you've got a dyslexic child, you get like 60% weight. That means we add more money to how many dyslexic children. If you've got an autism,
so I have to push you a little bit because I don't want to run out of time. It sounds like both of you are fighting to give as much as possible.
We are.
And you're saying the Senate gives a little bit more than the House version, regardless of what it's called. So why cut off conference on this?
I'm not cutting off the conference on it, and you're
my
exactly
understanding
right.
was that the conference was you weren't going to go to conference on it.
I don't know that, Paul. My chairman is there, and they have put their bill back in. I expect that they'll be in conference today.
What's the need to keep it under the banner of MAEP if the objection is, or the object of doing this is to arrive at a full funding on a yearly basis, on a recurring basis?
Well, as I told you, I don't care what you call it. I don't want to stay under MAEP because it's generated its own nomenclature, and I don't think it's helpful anymore. So I don't want to use MAEP as such.
Right.
But the methodology is important. And Paul, to your point, that the Senate plan does provide hundreds of millions of dollars more for schools.
Is that still alive for this year? Still a possibility?
Yes, sir, it is. And I'm hopeful. The House put it back in another bill. These go back and forth. They kill ours, we kill theirs. They put it in another plan. It goes back and forth. But it's still alive, and I'm hopeful that it will be finished this year.
I call this one a Trojan horse, and one more that we wanted to squeeze in here was SB 2799 to redo really the state government to a large sector by reconstituting boards and agencies, and we've had a lot of people comment on this one. I'm not sure that is still alive. I understand
it is.
It has returned from concurrence,
right? And so. Paul, the basic here was that we have to appoint. The governor gets about 700 appointments. I get about 300 or 400 as the lieutenant governor. Secretary of State gets a few more. The process was, first of all, that you get your appointments. If the governor doesn't make his, then the lieutenant governor. If the lieutenant governor doesn't make his, Secretary of State makes them. We got to get people on our boards. Some of our elected officials are more dilatory than others in getting their stuff together, which means that those boards can't meet. So that was the number one thing. The second, we get into this process when we have a new governor come in, or you've got a 4-year appointment. If you had a 4-year appointment, IHL and those have a longer, that we really want to see you again. The Senate wants to advise and consent after you've been in for 4 years and see how you're doing. How's your job doing? You don't just get a perpetual appointment from a governor who's then long gone. Those are two pretty good concepts, Paul, and I think this has been morphed in because I listen to your show all the time. You do a good job. But I listen in and it's morphed into, oh, my goodness, the governor's going to take over the thing. And that was not the intent. Now, the language.
Well, it's not the intent, but you'd have to admit if you have the majority of appointments and you start over every 4 years, it winds up that way with the governor having more power and
well, he has appointments anyway, Paul. I mean, the only ones he does is like IHL and stuff.
I agree with everything that you've said as far as...
Well, I'm going to quit now.
Wait, we got one more segment.
Oh, okay.
As far as if you're going to appoint people, appoint them. Don't let them hang out there for so long.
Absolutely.
I agree with that.
Absolutely.
Checks and balances, oversight. If you're not doing your job, kick them off.
Yes,
understand all of that. It's the staggered part where a governor comes in and can wipe out an agency head and also have control of the board. That is a little bit daunting in the state of Mississippi, certainly if a Democrat governor moves in. Back with more. The Lieutenant Governor, Delbert Hosemann, I was just sitting here thinking, we talked about reconstituting the boards the last time.
Yeah.
The first time we reconstituted something, certainly I agree with you 100%. That was, I'm sitting here thinking how many years ago that was, of reconstituting 16-section land.
Yeah.
that caused quite a bit of a controversy back then.
I did. When I ran it, we got it up to about $100 million a year in revenue for schools.
That's exactly right.
So
4 schools.
We had a good run at it, and I'm pleased with that.
I want to give you final thoughts here.
Yes, sir.
To wrap up.
Yes, sir. I guess the one you didn't cover was PERS, and that's the one that's driving everything else, Paul. And I just be honest with everyone. The shortened story is, of course, 2 years ago we were 93% funded, according to what they told us from the board over there, and then they came back in October and November when we had our hearings for budgets and said we were $25 billion short. So they were cross-examined at that, and a lot of questions answered. And then in January 25th, Paul, we got a letter from them that said we were $25 billion underfunded, some 56% funded. And in the same letter, they said we need to shorten the vesting schedule for employees, and that will cost you an additional $40 million. Well, that just sent me, and I think the members of the House and everybody else, apoplectic. First of all, 2 years ago we were fully funded. Now we're half funded, and one of the worst in the country. And now you want to change the vesting schedule and charge me another $40 million. So that first led to the House action, which would have been the normal, quite frankly, in a business environment. We'd have fired the board. That's what would have happened. You've done that here at SuperTalk or these businesses where everybody's riding to go to work today. You showed up and said you were half off from a year ago, they'd just fire everybody. And that led to some hearings by the Senate to say, all right, what happened? They came over. 3 of them testified. One of them runs a city clerk in Tupelo. And then there was one that drove me a lot was the superintendent of North Pike High School. And he said, yes, we've had these problems. And I said, well, how are you going to handle these, sir? What will you do? Well, it's going to cost me $750,000, this implementation of 5% and another 5% later, Paul. This is not all of it. So it ends up being $700 million a year. So he said, I'm going to have to lay off teachers. That struck me, Paul. After we worked so hard to get 35th and hopefully 29th next year and building our education base, which is a future of our state, they're going to start laying off teachers. So that really drove all of us to take a look inside of where we're going. And there were 2 or 3 things that stood out to me anyway. One was the fact that our numbers are wrong. In the last 15 years, 11 of them, we've had actuarial error where they missed it, and it averages over $100 million a year. Then the lady that runs it, a very nice person, said that we pay $100 million for advice. $100 million a year for advice. And the actuaries participate by Zoom call. They don't even come down here. And that started us all over saying, we need some help here. So, but the bill that the Senate has come out with says that we take the 2%, we freeze that and don't charge it to our cities and counties. Every town that I talked to, Paul, from the coast to North Mississippi, said they were going to lay off people in their schools and in their programs, and at their cities.
Real quick.
And that's going to break that program, Paul.
We know what the problems are. Any solutions from your side, board versus board? What are the solutions?
Well, there's two things. First of all, given we owe the money, so everybody is going to get paid what we owe them. I mean, there was a 3% compounded. That's what people earned. That's what our contract with them.
How much money are we talking from the state treasurer?
Oh, I don't know, Paul. To get it fixed, it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and that just depends on what that rate of return is. And we owe those people the money. We're going to need to pay it. The second thing we've got to do, Paul, the one proposed was worse. It made us dig the hole deeper. So we need to come up with a fifth tier now, and that will be for new employees. And that fifth tier will not be the same benefit structure we have here, so new employees won't be able to get into this. Right now, the employees pay 9%. We're fixing to, when they finish this, we're fixing to pay 27%. That's 36% for retirement. That's not sustainable, Paul. And that's before you get to FICA and FUTA and health insurance.
Am I hearing some depletion of the rainy day fund?
Right now, the rainy day fund is full, and I think what we really need to do is get a hold of the actuarial numbers. Why are we wrong all the time? We need to get a hold of the investment. When they lowered the investment return from, I think, 7
How long is it going to take to do that?
I think this next year, and then we got to come up with our fifth tier, Paul. We got to come up with a new plan. We can't keep this plan, Paul. I mean, it's $25 billion in counting.
I understand. It is a complicated issue.
Very difficult. Very difficult.
It is difficult.
And I'm proud of the House and the Senate wading into this. As you know, it's very controversial.
Got to be done.
We're not going to take down anybody's benefit. They're all going to get paid. And then we got to have a future